good. Okay, that's good. First off, hello everyone, and thank you so much for joining us to this session. Today we have an amazing speaker, Ali. She is a developer advocate, and she works on all things IPFS and Filecoin. She has had experience giving a lot of workshops, and before Ali, I was talking to Nikki, and she mentioned she spoke really high of Ali and her workshops that have happened so far. So I'm personally excited to be able to, look at the code and kind of walk along as you explain it. I've used Nft Storage before, but hearing it from the maestro is, a different feeling altogether. For those of you who are attending a Phoenix Guild session for the first ever time, a quick context about the Phoenix Guild. The Phoenix Guild is a community that was kickstarted towards the end of Jan 2022, and our primary motive is to help women break into Web3. One of the things that we are doing differently from a couple of other women-led groups is we are trying to help women break into Web3 by doing something in the Web3 space. It could be a small writing task, it could be a small designing your own graphic explaining a particular concept, it could be a boot camp, it could be a Twitter space that you have joined and spoke about something that you like, it could be a YouTube video that you built, right? We want you to do something and get your hands dirty in the Web3 space, because that is the best way to learn in this space. And that's how we want to be different from other groups. Our boot camps are specifically designed to help women create a safe space to learn. However, all of our educational sessions such as this are open to the entire wider community, because even though we are working to get more women in the Web3 space, we need male allies who can support us, who can help us be a part of this ecosystem, right? So that's why all of our sessions are open to everyone, and we encourage everyone to spread the word about this and kind of get onto the bandwagon. This masterclass specifically is a part of our ongoing Solidity Bootcamp, which is a bootcamp that we kickstarted for about 100 women. We are at week 4 of the bootcamp, and next week we are going to close the theoretical sessions and start project week the week after. So really excited to have folks from IPFS and Filecoin represent. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to the session. Before we start though, we had announced a bounty for 2 winners who write the best article summarizing an introduction to Filecoin and IPFS. There was a video that was shared. We received about 6 articles. A huge shout out to everybody who submitted an article. We have Muflihat, we have Balaji, Sylvia, Ritu Rao, Ritu Jain, and Divya Preeta, 6 of them who submitted an article. And all of them were great articles. But the way we judged the articles were, we gave all of these articles to folks who knew nothing about IPFS and Filecoin, and found which ones were the most easy to read and understand. Based on that, we have chosen 2 winners. So we have Divya Preeta and Ritu Rao, who are winners of $100 worth of bounty. So yeah, yay. So this is our first Filecoin bounty, Filecoin IPFS bounty that we have released. And now that I've spoken so much, I'm just going to stop and let Ali take over. Maybe Ali, you want to talk a little bit about yourself, introduce, and then kind of get on to the session.
Sure. And thanks for the awesome introduction. And like, I love what you guys are doing here as well. Like, it's really great to see so much happening and supporting women in Web3 and supporting people to learn as well. Like, that's what I love doing too. So awesome to be able to help with that mission a bit. I'm going to need screen sharing, please, host. If you could, that would be great.
Yeah, I'll make you a co-host. So I think that would give you all
there we go. Now I can screen share. So awesome. Let me just see what I need to share here. And that one. Okay, awesome. So you should be seeing my screen now and the introduction slide, but I will tell you who I am first, but you've already done a great job of introducing me. I'm Ali. I'm a developer advocate here at the Filecoin Foundation. So just a quick rundown on the differences. So someone was asking about IPFS and Filecoin before, and you may also have heard about Protocol Labs. So all three of those organizations are separate organizations. Protocol Labs is the incubator and R&D entity. So basically we play around with projects there that try and, expand the future of the open web. Basically, that's our main mission, to, make technology work for humanity in a way that is good for the public. So opening up the web. And I heard a great talk from Juan Benaya, founder, the other day, and he said, the tools and the technology that we use on the web really defines our human rights. And it's never been more true than kind of today in this digital era where we're doing everything on the web. Like, we can't have censorship, we can't have blocking of these things that we need to share with each other, because that was the original mission of the web, to, share knowledge and information like we're doing here today. So we're creating tools that do that. So that's the overarching R&D foundation. And then out of that came two really awesome projects, one of which is IPFS, which is a peer-to-peer protocol, not a blockchain. It's a peer-to-peer protocol, much like HTTPS on your web is a peer-to-peer protocol. Except for IPFS, instead of location addressing, I might see if I've got a slide on this before I get too far. I don't think I actually do, because I'm talking about NFTs today. So IPFS is a peer-to-peer protocol. So if you've ever torrented or you've seen that before, it kind of does a similar thing to that. But instead of using location addressing like you do on the internet, so you go to a location, it looks up the domain name, and then it serves that content from whatever folder or location it's at. So you can kind of think of it like a bookstore. Let's say your friend asks you for a book and you go and tell them, well, it's at this bookstore down the road on this street. Go up the stairs to the second floor and it's on the third shelf to fifth from the right or something. That's how the internet addresses content at the moment. So instead of doing that, IPFS proposes that you should be addressing that book by the book, basically. So that means that if you tell your friend, the book is called this, then you'd be able to fetch it from multiple different places. So it could be that bookstore that we just talked about. It could be in your backpack. It could be in your friend's house next door or something. Doesn't matter where it is, you'll get that book back. So that's the idea of IPFS. The problem with IPFS is, and if anyone's seen, everyone's probably used torrents or something like that before, at least seen it, that because this content and each node holding these bits of content isn't it's someone's computer basically, or it's someone's server, why should they store that content for you, right? So either you're paying them to keep a copy of your content around, or they're doing it altruistically because they like you or they like your content. But basically there's no way to guarantee that content's going to get persisted and always going to be available. So that's where Filecoin comes in. Filecoin is a blockchain, and the idea behind it is to use crypto economics to incentivize people to store your content persistently, permanently, and resiliently. So that's a bit of an introduction on IPFS before I go into it. And you'll see why as I go through this, it's super important for NFTs as well. And I'll just stop there and see if there's any questions actually before I keep going. I can't actually see the menu or the chat. Let me open the chat. Okay, cool. Is there any questions, or are we all good here? I think that we're all good. Okay, I'll keep going. So today what I did want to talk about, just now that we've gone through that as aside, is NFTs. So IPFS and Filecoin are really useful for NFTs because IPFS, like I said, makes immutable content identifiers. That means that, that immutable content is always going to be the same. And that's a major property for non-fungible tokens. You need whatever image or whatever music or whatever video file whatever you're attaching to this NFT, you need that data to be immutable. So that's where IPFS comes in. Then you also want to make sure that this is persistently and permanently stored. You want this NFT around for, forever, really. You want to be able to prove that you're the digital owner of this NFT, and that the content associated with that NFT is always going to be the same, unless you deliberately code it not to be. But in general, you want that content to always be the same. So that's where Filecoin comes in, to persistently and permanently store that data. So here's the agenda that I did want to go through, or that I've got written up anyway. Just a quick rundown on an NFT, but I think maybe most of you already know that, but I'll just do it anyway. Some NFT properties and the use cases for them, because there's a lot more than, just being a JPEG. The anatomy of an NFT contract. So I'm going to have a quick look at OpenZeppelin's ERC 721 contract, which is kind of the standard used in Ethereum-based NFTs. That includes layer 2s like Polygon or EVM compatible chains as well. So you can use it on NEAR or AVAX, for example. And then, why IPFS and Filecoin. And then I'll go through this quick demo for you. So NFTs have become a big story, and I just want to break through some of that noise. They're non-fungible tokens. They're just cryptographically unique digital assets that can be associated with digital content, like I was saying before. So images, video, but really it can be any kind of content that can be attached to this NFT, and that's where IPFS and Filecoin are important. So there's some really cool properties of NFTs and why they're becoming such a big story. Some of these NFT properties are inherited from blockchain properties, and some of them are unique to NFTs. For example, their uniqueness and they're provably scarce. Most of these others are properties inherited by the blockchain. So they're indivisible, they're fraud-proof because you've got a record of it, and they're transferable. So there's heaps of NFT use cases. So at the moment, tickets, certifications. My old workplace, IBM, is doing patents with NFTs, which is a cool kind of industrial, enterprise, I guess you'd call it, use case. There's voting and governance rights. You might have an NFT for an ENS domain name if you have one. So if you've seen those like name.eth names everywhere, that's an ENS domain name. That is actually an NFT. Openings to kind of DAOs as well, decentralized or autonomous organizations. So there's a lot of DAOs popping up now, and a lot of them are ensuring their DAO members are NFT owners to get an actual social picture. So for example, I'm a member of Developer DAO, and to be a member of Developer DAO, you need an NFT for that. To contribute and participate well. So that's another example anyway. There's heaps more. Fractional ownership is a big one. The big thing is it's basically a signature on whatever you're doing, right? So this proves that it's yours and that you can do something with it. So let's have a look at an NFT contract anatomy. So for those of you that may not have heard of OpenZeppelin is Ethereum Solidity kind of template library. So you can have a look at the templates on here, and they've all been audited and security tested, and they keep being updated all the time as well. So I think this is from about a month ago now, and there's actually more you can do with NFTs now. But the ERC 721 is the NFT basic standard for NFTs. So if you want to make an NFT, on Ethereum anyway, you want to use the ERC 721 contract, and you can get that from OpenZeppelin. So there's a heap of things you can do with NFTs too. So there's gratuities, royalties. If you can have a look down the side here, there's a royalty, there's voting, storage, burnable, all this sort of stuff you can do with NFTs that they've even got written into their contract now. So they keep updating it and making it easier for developers, which is awesome. So let's have a look at a function, and this is the example on OpenZeppelin as well. So basically, this is an NFT contract. All it does is, whoops, I'm just going to go back one. This function award item is actually is their Solidity contract function, where they want to award an NFT to a player of a game, for example. So they've got their player address, and then they've got a token URI, which is actually really important, and we'll get to that in a second. And then they just go down and mint that NFT for that player, and then they set the token URI for that player. So what is this token URI? So minting the NFT means that they've already created it, right? Excuse me. And then they set the token URI. So what is this token URI? Well, basically it's just a JSON document. This is what's called the metadata of an NFT, and it has JSON in here. It needs to have name, description, and like a file link. In this case, it's an image. And then you can add any other attributes you like to your NFT in this metadata as well. Now, the big problem with specifically this example as well, for those of you that are playing at home and probably noticed, is that it's HTTP addressed, which means someone's storing that on a server somewhere and can change it. And there's been some famous examples of people actually putting out NFTs and then changing the underlying data from it. And this is exactly why IPFS is so important here as well. Even Open Zeppelin actually gives a warning on this as well. So you'll notice the items information is included in the metadata. That information isn't on chain. So a game developer could change the underlying metadata. And that's a really important point. So they suggest, even if you don't have it on chain, then you should leverage IPFS to store the token URI information. So the too long didn't read, which I've already kind of gone through this IPFS and Filecoin difference as well, and why they work together so well. So I probably won't do that again. So why IPFS and Filecoin in NFTs? You need storage that's off-chain. So if you're not storing this metadata, this token URI on-chain, which you can do, like you can store it in your Solidity contract. If you're not doing that, and there's reasons you wouldn't do that because it's super expensive, especially if you're on the Ethereum mainnet chain. And if you've got large files, it just gets really unwieldy. So you don't really want to be storing it necessarily all on chain. So that's why you'd use an IPFS fixed address, because the IPFS content ID is immutable. You can't change it. It's always the same for the same content. So example, if you had a picture and you got an IPFS content ID, CID for that, and then changed one pixel, the CID would change. So it will be a different CID for that one pixel change in an image. So the content's always the same. And then you need to make sure that your metadata that you've just made with an IPFS CID is stored persistently and reliably. So we use Filecoin to do that. And this is where I'll jump into this one. This is why we have Nft storage. It makes it really, really easy to do what seems like a really long, annoying process. It makes it easy to do that. You can upload it via the website itself if you like. I think I've actually got the website open, so let's have a look. Let's go to my files here. So this is nft.storage. I can directly upload an image right now if I wanted to, and you can see I would get back like a CID, and then it will make Filecoin deals for me. So it'll make deals to make sure that that content is stored on the Filecoin blockchain storage network permanently and persistently. So you can see there's multiple deals here. Generally, they try to make at least 8 Filecoin deals. I think these are quite recent, so they're probably not done yet. But yeah, basically you can see all your deals here, and you can see the CID associated with that as well, which I won't be able to open because I think I'm in Chrome. Yeah. Should I talk about that now? Okay, so you've got a CID here, and I will talk about it now actually. If you do want to look up a CID in your browser, because IPFS and HTTP are different protocols, you need a gateway to be able to do that, unless you're using a browser that has that natively built in. So Brave browser has IPFS natively built in, so you could go straight to it. Otherwise, you will need to use a gateway, and I'll show you how I do that in my files as well. Anyway, so that's that's nft.storage, and we're going to use that in our project. And the other one is that I would recommend as a dev tool is Fleek hosting, and I'm going to show you that as well. For anyone that's maybe used Netlify or Vercel or something super easy like that to deploy from their browser. To deploy from their GitHub, to deploy, say, a React project to, one of those Netlify or Vercels, just to deploy it live. Fleek hosting does the same thing, except it's decentralized because it runs on IPFS under the hood. So you can deploy basically to IPFS, and that makes, each of your changes immutable too, and it will update the same way that Vercel does as well, which is actually, I've got it here, and I was trying to do it. Am I not signed in? Interesting. So this is Fleek. All you do is hook it up to your GitHub when it comes up, and then deploy whatever React app you have. So you can see I've got a few deployed here already. I'll just go back. So I'm just going to show you an older version because of my code. I tried to update NPM and broke my code before this. So I'll just show you this older version of this demo that we're going to do. So this is an old version that I did for South by Southwest. And this is the demo I've made, and you can see it's deployed on Fleek as easily as you would on Netlify or Vercel. Alrighty. Whoops. So maybe actually won't do that one. That's not the ideal one. Let's have a look at.
Can I ask a question if the question is here?
Yeah, sure. Let's go with questions along the way. Sounds good.
How basically do we come to know that this data has been uploaded over the IPFS? Like, is there any hash which has been returned out, like CID from the IPFS, or how?
I'm not sure of your question there. Is it, how do you know that it's uploaded to IPFS?
Basically the CID, like what does it return once the data is uploaded?
Okay, let's do that now then. So I will, that's the wrong one. So I've just opened up an old project here. So this project, actually, I think I might have a slide for this. So let's just go through to the project. So yeah, this was your project. I had your whole Phoenix Guild NFT collection getting made, but anyway, we'll use the old one. So the project is basically built with a React front end, a Solidity contract on the back end. So Ethereum Solidity contract on the back end that makes these NFTs, and I can go through that as well. And then I've connected those up using Ethers, which is a JS library to connect the two. And all I'm doing to add the token Yuri, I'll actually show you the code for this. Okay, so let's have a look at the actual code. So that's not it. Don't know what that is. That was me trying to fix problems before, but isn't it? Oh man, this Zoom toolbar is kind of annoying. Let me just move that somewhere. Okay, great. So this is my oops, that's my node modules. So 1 second, guys. Apologies for this. Okay. So basically, I've got all in one folder. I've got my contracts, which I'm using Hard Hat. For those of you that may not know that, it's basically makes it easy to work with Solidity contracts and deploy them. So I'm using that as a framework, Hard Hat. I've created my NFT contract in these contracts, and then I've got a front end, which is just a Create React app that I've added some pages, obviously, and functionality to. So let's have a look at the contract first. So I've got the Filecoin NFT hack. I'm using this ERC 721 storage, and you can see that comes from Open Zeppelin. I'm using a max NFTs because I'm only allowing 100 of these NFTs to be minted, and I set the number in the constructor here. So max NFTs equals 100. Once it gets to 100, no more NFTs can be minted. But yeah, and then I've just got the function to mint my NFT, which, as you can see, maybe here, it might be a bit small. Sorry, guys. Let's just close that up too. As you can see here, it kind of takes a IPFS URI. So that's the token URI that I'm going to set for this NFT, basically. And then I do exactly like we showed in the Open Zeppelin example before. I safe mint this item, and then I set the token URI. So where does the contract get this token URI from though? So it comes from my front end app, and this is where Nft storage comes into play, because I'll import Nft storage and a function that I use, a file function that I use for it in my front end code. I just import the package. By the way, you also will need, you'll also need to get an API key for your app to do that. And that's not very good of them not to have that secret. But anyway, you will need an API key as well. So then down below here, let me just look it up because it's going to get ignoring. Okay. So then when I do want to create image view, no. Okay, so this is where I'm creating the nft.data, and what I'll show you this on the actual code site as well. So I'm going to enter my name in here and click the mint NFT button. And this is where it goes to my create NFT data function, basically. So firstly, my code will create the IPFS image link. So if I look in my inspect tab, I might be able to see, hopefully, yeah, down the very bottom here, and sorry, it's not very clear on code. You can see that when I do call this function, where's my code base? Here it is. When I do call this function, create NFT data, what I do is create a new client, nft.storage client, and I use my API key for that, obviously. And then I am passing through the data. I'm just encrypting it on the front end here so someone can't inject before I actually store it on nft.storage. So that's all that this crypto.js library is doing. I'm just trying to encrypt it first. And this is the actual function of nft.storage. So I await client.store, and this is all in their docs as well. I'm setting a name, description, and image is the important part. So I'm creating a file, which is basically an SVG. So this is an SVG file. You can have a look at it here. This is just an SVG file that I'm setting here, and I'm adding right at the bottom of the SVG in my function. I'm adding the personal name. Whoops, that's the wrong one. No wonder I can't find it. I'm adding the personal name of the person. So this is the name input on the front end, and then just finishing off the SVG tag there. And that's how I add the name into the NFT. So anyway, so I pass this through to nft.storage, and what I'll get back is actually that metadata. So, and it will have an IPFS CID attached to it. I might try I'm going to cancel my wallet. Make sure you use a dev wallet, by the way. Never use a wallet that you actually use real money in for dev projects, just as an aside, though I'm sure you wouldn't. So let's type in Phoenix here and mint the NFT again. And you can see kind of what comes up in my console log. Oops. So it says metadata saved here. So this is like what you would get back. You get back a URL with the CID in it, and an IP NFT link, which is basically the IPFS CID. And here's your data, description, image, name, and then I put trades awesomeness 100 as an addition to that metadata. So hopefully that answered the question there. So the next thing that happens, so this is already saved to IPFS to nft.storage, and nft.storage under the hood has created that IPFS link and is making Filecoin storage deals for me now. So I already have the token URI, and now I can send it off to my contract to mint. So this is waiting approval from my wallet to do, because there's obviously a gas fee on doing anything on the Solidity chain. Now I'm just using the Ringpy test network, so it's all free, but you could deploy this to Polygon, you could deploy it to the Ethereum mainnet, whatever you wanted to do there. as you can see, actually, I've also put in a CIPFS image link. So if I go to that, I can see the image that's been made as well. So this is what's going to get uploaded into my NFT as well. Yeah, I'm still using IPFS web link. So as a note, this is how IPFS talks to HTTP. So here's your, I don't know if you can actually see this because I can't make the bar any bigger, but there's a CID basically, which I'm highlighting there. And then I use a gateway, a HTTP gateway to connect IPFS and HTTP. And this is how I can see the image in my browser. And this is just the name of the image that I'm fetching, which I've named from the front end as well. All right, so let's click on the mint function now, which I'll confirm this wallet transaction. So this will go to the next function in my contract, which is the ask contract to mint NFT. So this basically just connects back to my Solidity contract. So I mint my NFT contract, and then that does the minting, and then I'll be able to see it on basically everything you want to see. I'm just, yeah, it's pretty simple. I'm connecting to my Ethereum contract through Ethers and with a provider. So I'm using Alchemy, you could use Infura, you could use Morales. There's heaps of RPC providers, and the RPC provider is just means that you can talk to the chain, basically. Okay, I think that, yeah, so here we go. So await connected contract, mint my NFT. This is basically where I'm calling it, and this is IPFS URL. That's where I'm passing in what I got back from my create NFT data before. That's really all there is to making your own NFT as well, which is kind of cool. And I've got it all down the bottom here now. So here's the one of the 3 most recent NFTs that have been minting right down the bottom of the screen here. And I can go to, say, let's have a look at Rarible, and I can have a look at that NFT on Rarible too. So yeah, it's pretty cool because Rarible and OpenSea, they both just get events from the blockchain, and that's how they know that things are happening. So pretty cool. I think that's about it for my demo, pretty much. I was going to let you mint your own, but unfortunately had a mishap in the code there. So I might stop there for questions and see if anyone has questions, because I know I went through that a bit quickly, maybe as well. So maybe I'll stop for some questions there before I go on to a few other things I would like to share.
So,
did anyone have any questions?
Yeah, there was one question around, one question around your repo. If you could just share that link.
Oh yeah, of course. Let me just
fork that and work with that. There was a question earlier by one of the participants who says, I'm currently building a decentralized note-making web app. I'm storing all the notes in the local storage. Can you explain how to store the notes in IPFS if possible? I'm not sure if he's referring to the process, or does he want feedback on the implementation about that?
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what you're asking, but I think the best thing to do would be to jump into our IPFS Discord and to ask questions like that. So it sounds like, let me just read the question from, maybe that will help me as well. Oh, lots of questions here. Sorry for missing all those, guys. Okay, so currently building a decentralized note-making web app. Oh, awesome. Awesome. I heard nodes. So note-making web app. Sounds very cool. I like it. I'm storing all the notes in local storage. Okay, so this sounds like a really good use case for another product that's very similar to Nft.storage, but is called Web3 Storage. And I'll just type it down here. And the only difference is that Nft.storage is designed specifically for NFT metadata. So it has a roadmap around NFTs and around making it easy for people that are creating NFTs and NFT metadata. So Web3 storage is for everything else. So if you wanted to have a note-making app and you wanted to store that data the same way that I've just shown you with NFTs, you can do that on Web3 Storage in exactly the same way, basically. So instead of storing to local storage, you could store to Web3 storage and then retrieve that again. So hopefully that answers that question. Definitely check that out. So that's how you would store the notes in IPFS and on Filecoin, which is the even better way to do it. So otherwise, there's an IPFS JS package, and you could create IPFS hashes of all those notes, but then you still have the problem of where to store it. So I'd suggest Web3 storage probably. And then you can retrieve that through gateways as well if you need to. Hopefully that helped. Okay, was there any other questions, sorry, before I move on a little bit and maybe show you some, no, any questions on the code? Was anyone completely lost? Sorry if you were. There's the GitHub. Yeah, sure, turn your mic on. Let's have an Ask Me Anything session.
Yeah, hi Ali.
Hey Rahul.
My question is, whenever we store some data in IPFS, we can access the data through a link, right?
So whenever you store data in IPFS, that's not guaranteed to be persistent. So there's two ways to solve that. The first way is to use a pinning.
We'll get a link.
Sorry?
I will repeat my question once again, okay? Am I
Yep.
audible now?
Yep.
Yeah, basically my question is, whenever we store some image or data into the IPFS, we'll get a link so that we can access that data through that link, right? So anyone can access, anyone can access the data with the link.
If you're specifically saving to creating a IPFS CID, so there's two different questions here. You're either specifically saving an IPFS, getting an IPFS CID for that piece of content, or you're using something like Nft storage and receiving back
CID.
So one of them you will be guaranteed of storage and the other one you aren't. So I'm not sure. Are you asking specifically about like Nft storage and Web3 storage or just IPFS?
No, actually, I'm not using anything right now. I heard that whatever we store something on IPFS, we can access that any data through the link which we get when we hosted in the IPFS, right? So my question is, if we have the link, anyone can access that particular image or data, right?
Yeah, that's true.
So how can we authorize that?
If someone else has that CID, yes, they can access that data also. That's true. So the best way to, and don't forget, IPFS is a protocol. It's not designed to hide data from anyone the same way as HTTPS isn't designed to do that. So you would need to have an encryption layer before you stored that data as a CID.
Yeah, my question is exactly that: how to encrypt the data without allowing anyone to access that.
Yep. So that's a general encryption question. So general technical question. It's not Web3 specific, but you could use a library like I just did in Nft storage. Like you could use Crypto.js as an encryption library, and you would have the key to do that. So you basically just use standard encryption libraries that are out there in the wild to do something like that. With an encryption key that you have.
I also heard about ZK rollups. Can we implement ZK rollups to this kind of stuff?
With IPFS?
Yes.
Yeah, there's no reason you couldn't. IPFS is a protocol, so yes.
Yeah. Okay, I got my answer. Thanks for answering the
question. Sounds like you're doing some cool stuff though.
Have a good day. Bye.
Thank you. You too.
Ali, I thought of asking this question maybe on everyone's behalf. I think there is this notion or there isn't enough clarity on what is a pinning service versus just storing something on IPFS. And I kind of was thinking of asking that, and then I just doubled down on this question because of what Rahul asked in his first question, right? So if you could just throw some light on what is pinning versus what is just storing on IPFS.
Yeah, 100%. All right, I will do that. Let me, I actually even have a slide here for it. So let me share that. Okay, So I'll go back a slide. So we've already talked about what IPFS is. And like I said, if you get an IPFS is a network. It's a network of a lot of different nodes. So if you go and you can have a local node on your computer, by the way, there's an IPFS desktop that you can download and play around with and see how it works, which I use as well. So then if you do get an IPFS CID, either you have to be in charge of storing that content locally yourself, or one of your friends perhaps says, oh, I'll keep that for you so you can always retrieve it, and I'll make sure I keep it around. Or you can have like a third party node, which is a pinning service that you kind of pay to keep that content around for you. So there's some pinning services like Pinata or Infura. You can pay a pinning service to keep that CID content always available to you. So it never really disappears. That same content's always going to be that same content, but retrieval by other people might not be easy. Because it's not on any nodes. Maybe it's only on your node. And then if you shut your computer laptop, all of a sudden your node's not on the network anymore. So that's why you'd pay a pinning service, because they're always available. The problem with pinning services is what we're trying to do here is avoid centralization of data. We don't want to end up with another Amazon that controls all our data, basically, or another Facebook that controls all our data. So that the problem with pinning services is that they're centralized, and it's not just about controlling data either. Like, say one of these pinning services all of a sudden doesn't exist anymore, then, you know, where's your data? You can't get it back. So the point is to then store these IPFS content IDs on Filecoin, and that's how you will get like a persistent and reliable storage method. So you'll have IPFS for immutability, and then Filecoin for persistence. So that's why we've created Nft Storage and Web3 Storage to make that really easy for people to do. So the difference is that IPFS is just an IPFS pinning service. Again, it's centralized. If that pinning service you're using someday doesn't exist, then all of a sudden you're not going to be able to retrieve the data unless you've got a copy somewhere. Unlike with if you store it on Filecoin, that's always going to exist. Like it's a blockchain network, so there's like multiple different storage providers, and especially if you use something like Nft Storage, that kind of guarantees 8 storage locations at least, and it keeps it verifiable as well. So it's got cryptographic proofs that make sure those storage providers have your content, and they have to prove that every day, or their collateral, which is the Filecoin token, is slashed, and they don't want that because they're running businesses. But even if they do, that data is stored on other storage networks as well. So that's the point for resilience as well. So hopefully that answered that question a little bit better there. Yeah, so you should use Filecoin instead of a centralized. There we go. I like that slide. Anyway, hopefully that answered that question a bit better.
Yeah, I think that was 100% just spot on. And
yeah, the IPFS, I've noticed a comment here that IPFS is not storage in itself, and that's true. So IPFS is a peer-to-peer network of nodes. So yeah, each node can kind of hold content, but it may or may not just decide to keep or be up, basically. It's not a storage protocol, but it is a peer-to-peer network protocol. Yeah, so there is some storage to it, you're right though. But yeah, it's kind of a confusing terminology there. Yeah. But yeah, basically it's not.
I just thought it's easier to differentiate between itself being a storage versus it being a protocol. I was not exactly sure whether I should call it a network protocol or a storage.
No. Yeah, you're totally right. And it does get a little bit confusing. So hopefully, like, I've kind of shed some light on the difference between pinning, which, you know, is probably a decent way to go. But, you know, again, like, you're putting yourself at risk of having that pinning service go down and then your data's not available, basically. So Filecoin solves that.
Awesome. I think I saw that you had a slide on that, and maybe I just want to quickly ask you, like, what are the use cases that you can kind of recommend folks to look at when it comes to Filecoin, because we have a lot of interest, especially from the Phoenix Guild, that folks, I think now that they have started looking at Filecoin, made an entry through writing bounties, what are a couple of other things they can look at in this space to build on top of
Yeah,
Filecoin?
definitely. Let me share. So I have some project ideas for you, and you can find all of these. So we've already come up with one, actually. The note-taking app that you were making, for example, that's a perfect use case for using IPFS and Filecoin. So that was already a great example that the chat came up with before. There's lots of people using IPFS and Filecoin, by the way, as well. So things like LivePeer, I think if anyone's heard of LivePeer, the streaming application, they use IPFS and Filecoin under the hood. Audius uses IPFS, Netflix uses IPFS, Fleek, the app I showed you, obviously that's IPFS under the hood as well. So lots of people are using IPFS and Filecoin to build off. We're really kind of the infrastructure layer of Web3 a little bit in this way. And the main web as well. So people are using IPFS in general because they can see the value in that. So yeah, there's just some more examples here. So there was a couple of cool hackathon projects up the top here, Detris and this like Pixel game. So they were both using IPFS under the hood as well. And you can see them if you go to our hackathons.filecoin.io page. There's a bunch of past winners gallery there. So you can have a look at some of the projects of our past winners there to get some ideas on the sort of things people are building with IPFS and Filecoin as well. But other ones here, video streamer, well, LivePeer's kind of stolen your thunder there, but there's still lots of scope to make video here. That's not an easy project though, so it's not a beginner project, that one, but it would be really cool to see. You could make social media standards. There's projects like Ceramic, it is also using IPFS and Filecoin under the hood. OrbitDB, again, not a beginner project to the ecosystem, but it's trying to make distributed databases, relational databases. So if you are looking for that, that's the way, but that's not an easy problem to solve. So the best use case currently for IPFS and Filecoin combined is for archiving of data or for saving data that you don't want to lose. So that's the idea. We're trying to save the world's most important data, and we're doing things like saving a heap of climate data onto our chain. We've saved, we're working with Starling Labs, and we've saved a bunch of recordings from Holocaust victims on our chain. We're storing a lot of Ukraine's data now, so a lot of news coverage and things like that on our chain to make sure that, you know, there's a record that's always going to be kept of that, and it's not changeable. You can't just edit it. So there's lots of good applications for IPFS and Filecoin. Like it's storage and immutability. Like if you just have a think about, you know, where that kind of where you need that kind of application in tech, I'm sure you'll come up with a bunch of different ideas too. But otherwise, definitely have a look at hackathons.filecoin.io for some examples. We've also got more resources too. This, you know, if you really want to get a hands-on or learn more, there's Proto School is one of the top resources. Nft School is another good one. Obviously, there's our docs. We've got a YouTube. Again, that hackathons.filecoin.io page. And there's heaps of grants if you do a bounty, or you are making an application and you submit it to a hackathon or something like that. If you want to keep building with that project, we actually have micro grants that are available to people that participate. So that's a $5,000 micro grant if you want to keep building that project, and we'll help support you to do that. And then that leads into further accelerators as well. So if you want to be a founder, that's a great way to go. Just start with like a good idea, build it out at a hackathon or in a bounty, apply for a micro grant, and then, you know, if it's kind of got merit and you still want to keep building it out and make this a real application, there's like $50,000 grants available as well to actually, you know, build something cool. And I think we did support Audius and LivePeer in their initial phases too. So you really can, like, you know, be anything here, which is cool. Get in touch with us, the Discord. So there's an IPFS and Filecoin Discord. Mostly that is just IPFS channels on the Discord. If you want to talk Filecoin specific, there's also a Slack for that. You can find that in our docs. So just go to filecoin.io and you'll be able to access all those socials as well. And here's that page again. So yeah, this really does have pretty much all the information you're going to need. That'd be the page to go to pretty much. So hopefully I've answered all those questions. Anyway, that's pretty much the end of my presentation. And learn long, build and prosper, everyone.
That's a good one. I think there's a question from Marina.
So Marina, there's a project called OrbitDB, and relational databases with distributed storage are a not easy problem. So there's a few different projects that are working on this problem at the moment and doing a great job, but please understand that a lot of them are in kind of experimental phases where they're, I expect probably in a couple of years, there'll be one that's as easy to use as Mongo. But at the moment, they're kind of experimental. So check out OrbitDB. They've got all their docs there that you can have a look through and see how to implement them. And
I definitely will.
I think their GitHub has some examples. If they don't, I couldn't point you to anything specifically of how someone's implemented it. Sorry.
Okay. I was thinking, I've sort of been trying to wrap my mind about the a lot of the abortion issues that we're having here in the US, and making an app that moves data on chain but keeps their privacy and allows women to use apps like, make a decentralized version of an app like Flow or something.
Okay.
Clearly that data is currently being sold and used for very nefarious purposes.
That's really interesting.
Terrifying. I don't know if you've read some of those articles, but I mean, if there's ever been a use case for safe, decentralized data that no one, that can be abstracted away, but still be useful to the people who are using it.
Yeah, that's an awesome idea. I love that. And I'd love to support getting you help to build that as well. I don't know if you need a relational database so much as maybe ceramic would be a good use case for that. So I know they're using digital identity instead of that. So they're basically creating this social layer based on digital identity that you own and that you can take anywhere, which is kind of what you're saying here. In terms of storing their data, you probably could use Web3 Storage for that as a simple prototype.
It might have to be encrypted, I think, right? And
it would definitely need to be encrypted. Yeah, but you could still use that as a simple prototype for this. Like if you're building a demo or a prototype out for this, then we'd fully and actually you should just hit me up in the Filecoin Slack actually, and I will point you to some people that would really love to help you probably build that out.
Fabulous. Yeah. Is there a link for that, or how do I get myself in there?
So if you go to filecoin.io, there should be a link to how you join the Slack. Hopefully, if not, just contact Garner, is it?
Gan, you can call me Gan.
Sorry. Just contact them or Phoenix Guild, or actually you can contact me on Twitter as well. And if you have any trouble with that, I'm just at Developer Ali on Twitter. It's probably the easiest. Yeah, I just posted that in the chat, but that's an amazing application. I would love to see that happen for women and have it be an easy use case as well, not just like
the relational database use. I was actually thinking for something slightly different, related to women, but more like aggregating data for fertility and helping women with that, because it's like a ridiculously expensive process, and there's very little guidance, and there's very little information, and there's not really that many studies being done, and I feel like that's a massive AI use case for that. But I would love for that to be
aggregating data. That would be a cool use case in general.
Like anonymizing that data and aggregating it, and using some AI on it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. I'd love to see you like maybe build out a bit of a prototype of that app, and then we can take it to a grants funnel, and you'll get more support through that. If that's
That'd be
something you're
amazing.
interested in doing,
Yeah.
of course. Yeah.
Yeah, I was
but
just
yeah,
gonna add that
contact.
I think, sorry, Ali,
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that we have a project week coming up anyways, where learners of the bootcamp are to build a small project, a demo project. And I think it would be good to kind of shape this idea as well during those 2 weeks, and then maybe take some more time and build out a prototype. And of course, you already
It's a
mentioned that.
perfect opportunity. It's a
Yeah, I'm
perfect
sure you can
opportunity.
get some great group members from this crew as well, so to help support on that. Alrighty, I think that's about all from me. Definitely feel free to contact me if you do have any follow-up questions. I've dropped my Twitter link there. I do hang out in the Filecoin Slack a lot, so feel free to join that, or just join the Discord. A lot of the channels are bridged over to the Slack, so I'll see them there too. Whatever's your preference there, it's fine.
Awesome. If there are no questions, I think we are already 9 minutes over, and
That's okay.
yeah, thank you so much, Ali. First off, thank you so much for your time. I know that
Thank
you're
you so
moving
much.
between time zones. Earlier, Nikki mentioned that you are based in New Zealand, so maybe we do an earlier session, but now you're in Portugal. So thank you so
Yeah,
much for
I'm
contributing.
Australian, but yeah, I've been bouncing around a bit, doing a few events lately. So I've been in Europe and America more recently. But yeah, I am Australian, but probably not going back there till Christmas. So. But thank you so much, everyone, and what a great crew you have here. I love seeing it. Some great ideas too. So thank you so much for letting me participate. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone for joining us. We'll be posting the recording on our